It's the June show with Lill from CMHA. Lill, good to see you.
Hi,
How
I'm
are
good,
you?
thank you.
How was Mental Health Week? How
It
did it
went
go? Did you
really
guys in
well,
May? It
really
was
well. Great success, and we're really happy. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but when everything goes well, it's very rewarding and worth it all. So, yeah, pretty tired this morning though.
and but and it's just yeah, and you guys are always out there
Yeah,
raising awareness, but that week
yes, for
especially,
sure,
it's go time.
absolutely.
I wanted to talk about aging and mental health. I had a friend who in his 70s, he hurt his back really bad and he was very active and outdoorsy and all of a sudden he was sort of, he lives alone, he was isolated and I was concerned that maybe, he's not getting to do those things that he liked to do. And you could sort of see that little bit of that little step back until he got his health back because it was so critical for him to get outside and ride his bike and just be active. Let's talk a little bit about that today because that really caught me off
Mhm.
guard.
For sure. We often overlook the mental health needs and the mental wellness needs of our older adults, right? Unfortunately, it's a population that is often ignored, right? And they certainly need to be well because it's very important as you age to have that social connectedness to be active, to do many things so that your golden years are, good values, like, very high quality, good value years for you. Yeah.
And one of the other aspects I thought about with this was when people
Mhm.
retire. Like, I don't know, like that, if you did something that's been the center focus of your life for
Yeah.
40 years,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it just stops. Like, I remember my wife's
Yeah.
dad, that was a
Yeah.
big step. It took, like, he would just still get up in the morning and put on
Sure.
his work clothes because the routine was so
Yes,
built in.
absolutely.
Like, there's a bit of a transition there, right?
Absolutely. So what happens when you retire is initially is, oh, wow, I don't have to go anywhere. And wow, I can, drink my coffee and read the paper until 10 o'clock or whatever. But after a while, reality sets in because that is your identity. Like you were probably people who retire have worked 40, 50 years, right? And all of a sudden, their identity is just not there anymore. They don't identify with the job they used to do. And now they're a retired person. And there's a little bit of, oh my goodness, what do I do? I don't have that routine anymore. I don't have that social connectedness. It really is, it can be a big shock until you adjust. Yeah. Until you adjust. And some people don't adjust. Yeah.
And plus, then you look at your physical
Yes.
well-being because I think that becomes part of it too. It seems like, I mean, you're in that stage where you're starting to wake up every morning and
Some
something
different
different
aches.
aches, and you're like, "What?
Yeah.
What did I do? Right? What did I do?" Or or just accepting that it's okay to
Yeah.
have a nap. Right? Those
Yeah.
little things that you don't
Yeah.
realize with the age coming, and with that is the cognitive part. Correct? Like you want to be more keep
Yeah,
that
you
sharp.
absolutely have to keep that, your brain and your thought process very sharp because with aging, not only does it come with age aches and pains and what did I do today, that cognitive decline starts to show up. But you can really prevent that and, thwart it. Really, you really can by keeping your brain sharp. Volunteer, be active, do things like crossword puzzles and things like that. You really have to keep your mind going. I mean, even when I go on vacation, right? I come back and my mind has turned to mush, right? So can you imagine, yeah, when you're permanently
Yeah.
on vacation as in retired, you really have, it's so true what they say, like you got to use it or you lose it. And really, so you can prevent that cognitive decline. It isn't inevitable.
And with that isolation too, I think you got to be aware of
Yes.
depression, right? Because I think that a
Yeah.
lot of folks, as they age, that might be something they slip into. Not even, they're still doing things, but they don't understand that they still are dealing with other stuff that they got to keep moving
Yes,
themselves
they
forward.
absolutely do. As you hear that old adage, you're not ready for the rocking chair. Well, you're absolutely not ready for the rocking chair. And if you put yourself in that rocking chair and you stay in that rocking chair and watch TV and, you're really, really going to decline both physically and mentally. And, your longevity is going to be compromised. So just keep moving and keep busy and active and connected.
And yes, and connect. And the other part is that over the years I've seen with friends that have passed and the spouse,
Yeah.
dealing with
Yeah.
that, like
Yeah.
that loss. I think sometimes too, we need to, as a society, we need to help those people help folks
Yeah.
transition
Yeah.
back in, right? Because it's they're I get they're going through the grieving period, but at the same time, you want to stay positive and you want to say in your community, be active in your community.
Absolutely, Dave, and loss, when you get older of your spouse, that's very common, right? And then there's that period of depression and not wanting to move forward and not wanting to get involved. But that's when you really need people to help you out with that. Stay connected, stay active, stay busy, because you can really fall into that grief and it can be a deep, dark hole to get out of.
And I mean, with families too, I think it's important. Like, if you're living close to one of your parents that's alive, just
Hmm.
that check in, right?
Yeah.
Just to keep that
Yeah.
flow going so that they understand. If you've got siblings too, work a little program so that everybody's chatting once in a while to make sure they get out and do their things. Cause I think that's important too. Cause as I age now, I'm like, I really appreciate any time I get to do things
Hmm.
with my
Hmm.
kids, right? It's like now it's like, oh, I get to go hang out with
Exactly.
them. And I think that's important at all our ages to
Yeah.
understand that value of
Yeah,
that
it's
time.
very important. And if I remember my parents, they never wanted to bother us, right? So they wouldn't call or they wouldn't let us know that they're struggling, right? So that onus falls back on us. Even once a week or however often, depending how close you live, just check in and make sure they're okay because they're not going to tell you they're not okay, right? They're just not.
Right. I'm just curious too. Have you guys at the CMHA, have you guys seen a bit of an uptick in seniors maybe making calls that are dealing with some mental health
Yes,
issues?
yes, not directly to the agency, but indirectly through the Grand River Council on Aging, and there's also, similar in Haldeman, Norfolk, a similar organization, and they're connecting with people that they know, and reaching out saying, and now I go to a lot of health fairs, especially, when they have a seniors month, right? They have a lot of information fairs for seniors, and people come out in droves because it's for them. People are looking at the needs of seniors and they're so excited and they take my pens and they tell me about people that they know that are depressed and not going out. And, we cannot neglect our older adults. We just can't. Yeah.
Well, and the other part is that we always seem to forget now is the
Yeah.
wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like when you think about what they've
Yeah.
lived through, different
Hmm.
times, and there's always a lesson
Yeah.
there learned that they can pass forward. And then, even with my own kids, I'll say something, it's like, well, and they may not get it right away, but the
It
lesson's
is.
there now, right? You're handing it over saying, here's something that you might want to acknowledge down the road. So I think that's incredibly
It
important.
absolutely is, and I'm seeing, just sort of, new programs being created, mentorship programs like Cooking with Grandma or, sharing skills with high school students or elementary schools and even our local university, right? So, it really combats that ageism, right? Like, young people are learning and our older adults are feeling valued, right? Because their skills and their wisdom are being taken very seriously. So those are excellent programs that are cropping up here and there, and I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Me too. This is a great topic, and we could go on about it because I do think, like, a lot of the folks that I knew growing up were much older gentlemen that were friends and great mentors. And it's kinda I'm at that stage in my life now where like, "Oh, that's what he meant," or you know what I mean? Like, you kinda that comes full circle and you're trying to pass that information forward, but I do think that's such a critical component of today's society rather than looking at a
Yeah.
screen, talk to these folks,
Agree.
and giving them a little bit of their time will enrich your life.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the other part I always thought is like, I'm learning
Yeah.
something here that I didn't know walking into this, and I think that's critical for folks to see and understand, how those aging members of your community can be such a big player in the future.
Absolutely. I remember my mother had a green thumb and she had a beautiful garden, vegetable and flower garden, and, she would tell me little snippets. "Oh, these plants, you gotta keep them in the shade. These, they're not good in the sun." And, it was her garden, and I wasn't overly, interested in it. But now I remember, and I'm planning the garden, and I remember what she told me. There's no way I would have known that on my own. No way, you know? Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah.
ask you too, is that like my great grandfather was the same way. Beautiful gardens, like flowers and just everything. And visually, I can still
Mhm.
see it
Yeah,
and smell it.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's that aging memory that's perfect and his little bits of wisdom he would drop
Yep.
along the way. those stick with
They
you a
sure
lifetime,
do.
don't
They
they?
sure do.
And that way you can appreciate again, it's just this whole conversation we just had, that was them passing it on to
Exactly.
us that we get to sort of but I always just I don't know why it's so visual to me still to this day, right? Because you can see the flowers and
Yep.
they're growing and it's just,
Yep.
you know. I also remember that you had to be extremely careful cutting
Oh,
his
yeah.
lawn.
Oh, yes. But I learned that. I learned that from my mother over the
Yes, that was a learned skill
exactly. You'll
early
leave
on.
brown patches or,
Or cut the grass
right.
this way, keep it out of
Yep,
the
and you
beds,
gotta
right?
do it a
Yep.
different direction every time you mow the lawn, right?
Right. Yep,
See?
yep. It
That's
was
a
just,
prime example of
but I
things
mean,
that we
those
remember now. Yep, it's when we're young, we think we know everything, but we really don't, okay? You have to live a lot of years to know what our seniors know. Yeah,
and I think you kinda wonder what I guess on that aspect of what my great-grandfather probably tolerated me doing.
yeah,
You know what I mean? He never got
yeah.
upset, never, you know, and but, you always tried to be cautious, and you'd see once you cut it, before you're even done, he had the broom out, getting it off the sidewalk, right? And it's like, "I can do that for you," right? But I think that's an
Mhm,
important aspect of it, so to
and
those life
that's right.
lessons that you get to
And the
learn. This
dandelions,
great show, thanks for and the dandy oh boy, yeah, we could go down that road, couldn't we?
good memories.
My grandfather had this great big right behind his house, and this is one of my best memories, this great big cherry tree. So he would make his
Right.
own wine, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? But it was always just that tree was just such um, a marker for him, you know what I mean? Like, it was that center focus of the backyard, and it was so cool. Those things the things that they did that we can't even
yeah,
appreciate or understand now,
for
right?
sure.
Great show. Great show, Lil. Thanks for
Thank
doing
you,
this.
thank you.
Oh, and I guess we should mention obviously the numbers at the end of the show, but if you're a senior and you're having a tough
Mhm.
time, feel free to call, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. Take care.